Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the latest episode of Flip the Script with Vic. It's your host, Victoria Nielsen. As always, I have some of the most amazing women that I get to share with you all, that I get to just blab with, connect with, reconnect with. And one of those beautiful women today is Kat White. She is a breathwork facilitator, a mentor, a former marine biologist, and we were in the same cohort of breathwork training. God, it feels like that was so long ago, Kat.
I know. I'm like, how many years was that now? I'm trying to do the math.
I know. I think it
Was
was,
it 4 years ago?
yeah, something like that because it was 22, I think. So
Yeah.
we were both trained underneath Ava Johanna, who was fantastic, Academy of Breath. I think we maybe even did like another program of hers together, but I'm just really excited to get to catch up with you because you're doing really cool stuff, hosting retreats, and you just have such an interesting story and beautiful energy. I still remember the aura portrait that I created for you years ago.
I know. It's
And
like
it's
so
you.
one of my favorite things.
Oh, I love that. You guys, I might have to put a link to it in the show notes because Kat just, I mean, was like so majestic. There was like dolphins, like all of this marine energy. And then it was like, oh, duh, of course, like you're a marine biologist. And I don't think I even knew that at the time.
Yeah, I don't
But
think so.
it was really cool to feel all of that come through. So tell us then, what is the story of Kat? Like, don't leave out any details. How did you go from marine biology to breath work? I feel like that's a bit of a jump.
Yeah, it is. So I still technically am a marine biologist. I still actually do work with a nonprofit here in my area, studying marine mammals, so whales, dolphins, porpoises. So I'm literally like every girl's 8-year-old dream, in terms of the job that I get to do, which I'm incredibly grateful for. But yeah, it was so funny when you did that portrait for me because I don't think we'd even talked about because I was really, focused on building my breathwork business. And so I don't even think the marine biology had come up in conversation yet. And I was like, oh, of course, this is what you channeled. This is actually what I do. Yeah, so I grew up in a really small island in northern Scotland, and I grew up in the Shetland Islands. So that was incredible for being able to be out in the marine environment. I mean, that was our view. That was, you can't go more than like 2 miles from the sea there because it's a really long, narrow island. And so I was exposed to marine mammals from a really young age. And that was just my passion. I was obsessed with it. I had my little ID book at like 10, and I'd be like, okay, let me see if I can figure this out. Total science nerd.
I
Um,
love that. Like, is this starfish?
oh, yeah.
Like,
Yeah, that was
that's
me.
that's fantastic. My kids now are like obsessed with dinosaurs, and yeah, I
Oh,
know all
yeah.
the names and like all the like. I'm fascinated, so I can totally see like little cat being like, "This is the the formal name, this is like or the scientific name of something," and just being so curious and adorable. I love that. When did you move from Scotland? I had no idea you started all the way over there.
Yeah, so I was born in the US, moved to Scotland when I was about 5, and then I moved back here permanently in 2014, actually to pursue the marine biology stuff. I got a job out here.
Was that a culture shock?
Honestly, no, because I've always been really close to my American side of the family. So
Okay.
it is a different culture for sure, especially I live on the west coast of the US. So it's a lot more like relaxed here. But honestly, this is my spiritual home. Like this is where I feel at home. That's one of the reasons that I love it out here and I wanted to come back here is I had the opportunity to do an internship in this area when I was in like my third year of university. And I was like, oh, this is what people talk about when they talk about like feeling at home. Like I'd never felt that before. I'd always been like, my family is my home, my house is my home. This place is cool, my friends are my home. But like I'd never felt a physical location pull me like this one did. So incredibly fortunate to be able to be back in this space and yeah, so that was like I said, that was kind of my start was I really did pursue the marine biology side of things. Specifically, marine mammals was where my heart was. I wanted to study dolphins. I wanted to like figure out how they were communicating and how they were talking. And so, I did go into marine acoustics and photo
That's a
ID.
thing?
So
That's
that's a
so cool.
thing. Yeah. Yeah, I know. So and it's funny because like again, in hindsight, I'm like, oh, the connection with sound and breathing and like how these things come together, how we're all communicating. Um, how can we communicate with one another? Are we using frequencies? So a lot of that is actually part of my background. And And it really wasn't until I moved here. I'd always been interested in health and wellness from a very, very young age, but just on a personal level. And I was diagnosed with an autoimmune condition when I was 16. So, really had to kind of pay more attention to my health and really advocate for myself from a young age around what I wanted to happen with my body versus not. So, I think that really set me up well for diving into health and wellness as an adult and kind of really exploring that more fully. And when I moved here to pursue the marine biology stuff, that was really the first time that I mean, I'd lived as an adult before, but that was the first time that I felt in my mid 20s like, okay, I'm not at school. I'm not living with my parents. I'm out on my own. This is me living my adult life, and I get to create the life that I want and really, building in those health and wellness pieces was really, really important for me, especially working a lot. And we built a nonprofit from scratch. So like it was a lot of working long hours alongside doing that. And so, that really was a priority because it wasn't for a long time. I really did burn myself out in a lot of ways and had to circle back to, okay, what am I doing? How can I better support my body? And that just led me down the rabbit hole of, the more I got into it, the more interested I became, the more I wanted to share that with other people and support other people. And hey, here's how you can follow your dreams while also supporting yourself along the way. It doesn't have to be either or.
Exactly, because we were never taught any of those things.
Yeah.
And you and I were both, I feel like, raised in the hustle culture of like be a girl boss, work really hard, you're gonna get where you want to
Yeah.
go. And some of that was true, but a lot of us created some really bad habits, or I did anyway. And so I love that we're all coming back to kind of the same ancient tools that are really practical, really helpful, and really actually make us present in our bodies again. Because, I don't know about for you, but I feel like there was so many years of finding myself
Mhm.
and listening to that external validation or needing someone outside of myself to confirm things that I didn't know how to listen to within my body. And so it sounds like you from a young age, like, had your sovereignty, knew your boundaries, like kudos to you, because I feel like that took me a really like long time to get to. But I love hearing all the steps of your story because you're right, they weave together now. And like without each thing, you wouldn't be where you are today, leading cohorts of breath work at retreats and everything that you're doing. What was there like a specific moment, I guess, during kind of the everything going on with your autoimmune that you felt like a shift or a click? I feel like a lot of the clients that I talk to, they get to a moment where they're like, I was just tired of my own shit. Or
Mm.
like, I was tired of feeling so bad that I finally started to make the changes. Did you have any kind of moments like that before you really started taking your health and wellness into your own hands?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think for me it was twofold actually, which is kind of interesting. So when I was what precipitated the autoimmune condition coming on was actually my mom passing away when I was 16. So that stressor really was what launched my body into that autoimmune response. And what was so fascinating, again, in hindsight, but even in the moment, I remember being at 16 with no real awareness of health and wellness, no awareness of spirituality and energetics. I was raised in a very religious household, so that was all taboo. We don't talk about any of that. And I remember having this moment when I was lying in bed and like couldn't move and just thinking like, this is literally my body telling me you need to stop and deal with what's happening. Because I wasn't. I was very much in shutdown. I was like, I want to ignore everything that just happened and pretend to be normal.
Mhm.
And I remember just consciously having this moment of going like, wow, your body is so smart that it's literally forcing you to stop right now. And so that was kind of the first layer, I think, for me. And then, post that, I'm really, really fortunate in that I don't have too many like long-term impacts that I deal with on a regular. It doesn't really impact my life on a day-to-day basis, which I'm so grateful for. Um, but I think that was the first layer, and that really opened me up to more of the energetic side of things, of just the wisdom of the body, and just really becoming aware of like how intuitive I was and how intuitive my body was. And when I listened to it, hey, maybe if you listen to it, you could have avoided all of this. that you went through. And it was necessary. I'm really, really grateful for that experience. But I think the second layer on top of that was then, going through university, quote unquote, achieving my goals, right? Getting the degree that I wanted. And okay, I have this qualification. Now I can go do this thing. And then hitting up against that same thing, doing the job that I wanted, but then hitting up against, hey, your body's giving you these cues that you're pushing too hard, you're doing too much, you're burning the candle at all ends, and you need to stop and slow down. And that was, I think, really once I'd moved here, living that kind of adult life and suddenly realizing like this is not sustainable. Like I can't keep doing what I'm doing right now, or I will go back to that first point. So it was kind of an interesting, like multi-layered process, I think, for me to get to that point of saying like, all right, time out. We gotta we gotta make some changes here.
Well, I feel like most of us, right, have to see the cycle at least a couple times, or I do, like
Yeah.
I don't recognize it right away, but it's the same. Our bodies are always, always, always talking to us. And our energy is our responsibility, truly. It's no one else's, they're not going to come in and save us, or they're not going to really be able to. Like, you have to be the one that alchemizes, and you have to be the one that listens. And
Mm,
the universe is going to send you like little nods until it has to give you a really big nod. Like recently, I had a flu turn into bronchitis. And like I
mm,
needed that message from the universe of slowing down. And also the lungs are how you take in life. And I needed that
yeah.
message too about like being present, like truly with what, was in front of me. And so if I hadn't have listened, like it could have gotten much worse. But hey, maybe I could have never had bronchitis to begin with, if I had just slowed down to start with. And we're always in that co-communication, that co-creation with the universe. And I feel like you realize that at a young age. Do you think that's because of like your studying of marine mammals and realizing, hey, they're all connected, but also like they're not very different than us. Like we're doing all the same things. They're doing it in the water and we're doing it on land.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And I think like you said at the start, I think I'd always viewed those two worlds in my life as being very separate. Like here's my interest in health and wellness and breath work, and here's my interest in marine mammals and science. And I'd always kind of partitioned the two. But I think as I've gotten older, and I had some really beautiful reflections actually from a friend of mine once going like, oh, I can totally see the through line here. Like all you're doing is you're studying like the ecosystem of the human body or the marine mammal body. Like that's the exact same thing. Like you're doing the same thing in two different areas. And both of these are with the intention of increasing the health and vitality and resilience of the being, whether it's a marine mammal or a dolphin, or whether it is a human body living and existing in this world. And so I think, yeah, absolutely. I've always seen us all as being and all beings as being very interconnected, always loved animals, always been really connected to the wisdom that they can bring us and just observing nature. So, yeah, I think that was absolutely a big part of that for me.
I love that. And when it comes to the breath work, had you had a ton of experience with it before you decided to go get certified, or had you worked with Ava before or anything? Like I know I personally I found Kundalini yoga first before I
Mm,
found breath work. And I really liked the breath work style, like Kundalini Kriyas. And so that's what really drew me into wanting to get like the breathwork training. And then, go on to the advanced practitioner training because then you go down the rabbit hole of like the human body and like all of that. But had you experienced it before and you were like, I know I want this? Or were you one of those that just was like, I'm trusting that I'm being drawn to this and like it's going to be amazing?
a little bit of both. So I had a really strong ping at the start of 2022, like breath work. It just kept dropping into my awareness. And so actually I was in like a women's circle at the time, and one of the ladies in there had actually recently gotten certified through a different certification program. And she was like, hey, I'm going to be leading some virtual sessions. I'd really love you guys to show up because I don't have a following yet. And so I was like, yeah, sure. I'll like, come support you or whatever. And it was really intense. It was more of a holotropic style that we were doing. So it was really intense and I was not expecting it. And it was one of those where I was like, okay, I'm feeling pulled to breath work. Let me do this. I want to support her. This is perfect. Roped my now husband into doing it with me. I'm like, yeah, let's do this breathing thing together. And both of us afterwards were like, whoa, that was a lot. Okay. And so I actually was like, I had to take a step back from it for a minute because I was like, all right, like, I need to, integrate what just happened, but also like go through, okay, is this something that I want to explore? Because it was really powerful. And I think it actually surprised me with how powerful it was just in the physical body. But continued to have that pain, continued to have that pull of just, I just couldn't get it out of my field. And so I think, I started doing some more sessions. I started kind of attending these virtual sessions with different people and just intaking different styles of breath work. And I think I found Ava, she was doing some kind of like 30-day challenge. And I
I
was,
think
I
that's
was
how
like,
I found her too. I think like it
yeah,
was what I
I forget what
originally,
it was. I don't remember what the theme of it was, but I just remember
yeah.
I was like Googling breathwork people at the time. And I was like, trying to figure out like, okay, now all of a sudden I'm realizing there's different types of breathwork. Like I didn't know that when I started, I was just breathwork. I don't know. Um, so I did the 30-day challenge with her and it wasn't, I don't think it was even centered around the breathwork, but we were incorporating that into everything we were doing. And I loved it, loved it. And so I think that was after doing that with her. Then I jumped into one of her masterminds actually before I did the certification
Was it
because
Catalyst? Were
it
we
was
in Catalyst?
Catalyst.
Okay, because
Yeah.
I was like, wait, I thought we were in Catalyst together. Okay, that makes sense. So
Yeah.
then maybe I had done my training first. I don't know. It was all around the same time. Like I did multiple things
Right.
with her back to back to back.
Yeah, same, same. So I did that first because I actually never had any intention to become certified. I honestly was like, this is just, and I was already a health coach at that point. I'd gotten certified as a holistic health coach. So I was like, that's great. I'll just do this for myself so that I can hold better space for my clients. I can, manage my stress levels. And the deeper I went into it, the more I practiced, the more I was like, I can't not share this. Like I can't, gatekeep this. But I wanted to make sure that I had a really solid foundation. I wanted to make sure that I went through a training, that I understood how to hold space for clients through that process. So that was when I eventually dived into Academy of Breath with her. And then
Yeah.
now have
And
like multiple other certifications in breath work at this point. Cause like you said, it's a rabbit hole. So once you start going down that rabbit hole, it's like, ooh, there's
but
so
I
many
love
places to go.
right, but no, but I love that you wanted to hold space really intentionally because I feel like
Yeah.
almost that first session that you had with that person, like she probably didn't know that actually she should have warned you like what could happen. And anyone listening, if you've never experienced breath work before, it is almost they call it holotropic breath work, this certain style that is a little bit like hallucinatory, but you're like not really it's just arousing. It's very arousing to your nervous system. And you can
Mhm.
have different reactions. You can have tingling in your hands and your feet. You can have headaches, like you can have stomach aches, things like that. And I think it's really important as breathwork teachers to share that it may not always be comfortable and that that's okay, that actually that's part of the experience sometimes, that again, like these physical sensations you're feeling in your body are energy moving, or are helping you shift something. So are there any other like not misconceptions, but like I think that was just a really good one to share of like sometimes when you go to a
Yeah.
breathwork teacher, if they are not as well versed as someone like Kat, like ask, like, what am I gonna feel? What's gonna happen? Because then people get scared off or they don't want to do it again because they were like, whoa, that was a lot.
Hmm.
And the different styles I think matter too, because I don't even think I had heard of holotropic until after I had done something, and like that one, the transformational breath work is what they call that one a lot. Is
Hmm.
very different than just like sitting and doing breath of fire.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and I think that was a big, that was a big catalyst for me to actually get certified is because I'm like, I feel the power in this and I know there's something here for me, but I want to bring this to people in a way that feels supportive and empowering, not like this initiation or hazing that you need to go through in order to get to the next level. Because that often I think is how it comes across. And the number of people, I can't even tell you the number of people who have come to my classes and come up to me afterwards and gone like, thank you so much because I did a breathwork session weeks ago, months ago, years ago, and it completely, I was like you said, they were completely scared off because it was so overwhelming to their nervous system in that moment without really a lot of awareness building first that they were really overwhelmed and kind of scared of the whole thing. And so there's been a lot of people who have felt the pull, but have actually kind of had the bounce back of like, oh, I had this experience that really wasn't supportive to me. And now I'm not sure if I want to touch that again, but there's so much value there. And like you said, just even naming that like, hey, this is going to be energy moving through your body. Understand this is what you might experience, really informing people, right? So they can make a conscious and aligned choice for themselves and letting people know there are multiple different styles of breath work. Like there are styles that will support you, but it might not be the mainstream one. It might not be the one that you see online all the time.
or the one that's like quote unquote sexy,
Yeah.
like because it's not like when you're really doing like a good like breath of fire, fists of anger, like you're panting, you're like it doesn't look good, like you're really like just like letting yourself out there. But the transformational breath work, like I've had moments sometimes where like I not that I feel like I'm not in control of my body because that's not true, but I did have a moment once where like my neck, I must have moved something really big in my neck and my neck just automatically like kept going
Mm,
side to side. And I am a breathwork facilitator. I understand how this works. Like I had a moment of like, is my neck ever going to stop doing this? And I was like, yes, Victoria, like, it's going to stop eventually, but like, don't fight it. Just let your body is naturally doing what it is meant to do. Your body naturally knows how to expend energy, move through energy, and that is through shaking. That is through repetitive movement. That is through um sensations that just maybe don't feel normal to you, and
yeah.
can be kind of overwhelming or scary. And this is not to scare anyone off breath work, but I think this is an important conversation to have because I too have had too many clients that walked into rooms that they didn't know what they were getting into and they didn't understand. And sometimes, yes, you are going to go in a session and breathe for an hour. But sometimes, like, more is not more in these situations. Sometimes you can get just as much and, like, if not more from like a shorter breathwork class, I feel like, than some of the ones that are like hours long.
Yeah, and like you said, I think this is in no way to scare anybody, but I think it's just again, it's around that empowerment piece and giving people that permission to, like you said, ask questions. I think nobody wants to be the one that's like, "Hey, I have a question," but in front of 40 people, but like, "Hey, ask the question." And I think that, I love that you shared your experience with the neck movement because I think that is also really the importance of working with a facilitator, right? When you have someone there with you, guiding you through holding that space for you, it's a different level of support. You can have that person beside you saying, like, hey, I see you, you're safe, it's okay. Let this energy move through. Your body knows what it's doing. Like just having that support and that guidance is so powerful, especially if you're new to breath work, right? Having someone there to support you, hold the space for you, bring you out gently if you are, having a little bit too much of an activation response. They can bring you back to that grounded state. So I think just really, yeah, just being discerning. And there's so much there for, I truly believe that there is like breathwork is an incredible resource for everybody. But it's again, it's just that informing and educating people on, hey, there's multiple different kinds. It doesn't have to look like this person's practice. Your practice gets to be your practice and what is supportive for you right now. And that's going to change and shift over time too.
Exactly. And yeah, depending if you're pregnant, you're not pregnant, how you're feeling that
Exactly.
day. What would you say are some of the biggest misconceptions maybe that you have seen either in the spiritual coaching and holistic wellness space or around like breath work and some of the kind of different things that we teach?
I think, yeah, I think, kind of in the wellness space in general, but also I think specifically in the breathwork space, there is this misconception that, like you said, more is more. And it's especially for women and those who identify as women, like it's not. And really moving with that seasonal, and I know that's a lot of what you talk about with your community too, but like allowing your body to move in seasons, allowing your body to trust where it's at right now. Like you said, maybe last month that transformational breathwork session, that breathwork detox session felt incredible and you loved it. Maybe this month your nervous system needs a little bit more support. And maybe this month you're doing a really grounded alternate nostril breath every day, and that feels nourishing to you. So I think like there's this idea that we need to add more biohacking and more things, always more things and more pieces for it to feel successful, in air quotes. I think a lot of times what is the most nourishing practice is simply the pause and listening to what your body needs right now and then having the tools to pull from and say, okay, right now, what feels nourishing is going for a long walk with my dog. And that's it. And that can be enough. So I think there's getting away from a little bit of that, like, it almost feels kind of like the 90s bro gym culture to me, where it's
Yeah.
kind of like, you have to be doing these stacked sets and you have to be doing whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Trusting
Like habit
yourself.
stacking, like make it the most efficient thing possible.
Yeah, and I love the idea of that. And that works for some people. But I think, again, there is this tendency to then feel like you're not, quote unquote, doing it right if you're not hitting all these steps and getting up at 4 a.m. and doing a 3 hour wellness protocol. Like, that is not real life for most people, right? So just again, like allowing that space and allowing that individuality and recognizing that what you need right now is may well look different from what someone else needs. It may look different from what you needed yesterday and letting that be okay. And really just, yeah, just creating space around listening to ourselves and trusting what comes up.
And I love that you're sharing that because it really reminded me of a retreat breathwork session I held once where some of the ladies were totally new to breathwork and they almost were comparing their experiences to those around them. They were saying like, "Oh,
Mm,
this woman is over here crying. This woman over here like shaking and moving." What? And she felt bad because she was like, "I think I fell asleep." Like she kind of, like she was like, I don't
yeah.
think anything happened, and another woman was like, she said those exact words, am I doing it right? And I really want all of us to like just get rid of those words from our vocabulary. Like whatever's right to you is right. And to exactly your point, Kat, like we have to start trusting our intuition, trusting our bodies, and trusting ourselves, and know that not every experience is going to be like, oh my God, life changing. But that doesn't mean that it didn't serve its own purpose or that it's not
Mm,
moving you forward on like your path and in your journey. Like we can't have every single breathwork session be a transformational aha. That's just not how it works, Like to experience those high moments, you have to experience the low moments. You have to experience the in between. And it's a muscle like anything else. So like if you're super new to it, and you don't know how your body is going to respond to it or how it's anything, like that's okay to let it be what is. And if that means you fell asleep, like beautiful. I still believe you receive when you fall asleep, like it's what you needed.
yeah. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, thank you for sharing that because I think that is such a valid point. And one of my mentors always says that like no breathwork session will ever look the same as the previous one. So every single session you have is going to look and feel different. And there's value in every single one. Just because it's not this, like you said, it's not this massive cathartic release, or it's not this like, oh my gosh, I just know exactly what everything in the world is. Everything's in alignment, like just because it's not that, some of the most profound sessions that I've had personally have been really quiet sessions. Like there wasn't any big release. I was just in flow and I was able to receive exactly what I needed. And again, just really, like you said, getting away from that perfectionism, which we're taught, right? This is not something that is, coming out of nowhere. We're really encouraged to continue to think in that space. So I think really giving ourselves permission, being curious, letting it be playful, letting it be a practice, and I love when people tell me they've fallen asleep. I'm like, oh, you just did a conscious reset. That's all. Like you're like a computer. You just
Oh,
needed to
I love
power
that.
off and then like power back on. You weren't really asleep. You were just resetting yourself.
Oh
So
my God,
there's value in
I'm
all of
gonna
it.
steal that. Like but it's so true. It was like the body was like, I'm gonna reboot.
Yeah.
Okay. Do. Like time to come back
Yeah.
online. Speaking of reboots, you are hosting a retreat in Costa Rica very soon. Tell us all the
So
things.
I am not technically hosting it. I'm
Oh,
going
but
to
you're
one.
going to one.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm just
I'm going
manifesting
to
that you're
one.
hosting
Yeah.
one day. I'm
I
speaking it
mean,
into
that's the
existence
plan.
for you. Yeah.
That is the plan. Yeah, I do. That is on my bucket list for this year. I really would love to start actively hosting retreats. But yeah, I'm going with one of my breathwork mentors, actually, and a couple of my friends from that breathwork community that I'm part of in Costa Rica. So that's going to be a really powerful experience for me as a practitioner. I'm really, really excited to see what that holds and just exploring that deeper space of being able to be in connection together.
I think it's so important, especially those of us that are facilitators, coaches, healers. We need healers too. We need
Yeah.
coaches too. We need retreats too. I feel like we can get so caught up in like the hosting of things that it's really nice to be the receiver. And actually, I think the best practitioners have a mix of that giving and receiving because we know that, well, A, we can't pour from an empty cup, but B, it we can go deeper when we have someone else holding the space for us. So
Yeah.
that's just unparalleled, I feel like.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that is something that I guess actually, speaking to your previous point, like I think that's another misconception, right? Is that like we as facilitators have to always be the one holding the space in order for it to be, worthy, or in order for us to feel like we're doing something that's supporting our business. No, absolutely not. Like you said, some of the most profound and the most expansive experiences for you as a facilitator, as a coach, as a mentor come from being the receiver of that experience, because then you know how to bring that to other people. So, like you said, not only are you then feeling fuller and more able to give because you've supported yourself and your nervous system first, but you also know how to hold that space better because you've been there.
I really feel like we get initiated along the way because the universe is like, oh, you're going to teach this to other people? Oh, cool. Like, hold my beer. Now you got to go experience this and this. Like,
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Yes. And that has also been my experience for sure.
I know
Every
sometimes you're
time.
like, another initiation. Like, okay, fine, if I
Yeah,
have to.
I think it was Ava who shared that in one of our sessions, but sharing that, yeah, if you're gonna teach something, start to notice, because that's gonna show up for you in tests. You're gonna start to experience a lot of up leveling yourself around that, which requires you to be initiated a little bit. And so I think, for me, moving into this next phase of my business, holding retreats, holding space in that different way, this is my initiation to really, okay, let me go receive that medicine. Let me go receive from these people that I trust in this incredible place. Um, and see how I want to bring that to life for other people, and see what medicine there is there for me to receive first so that I can be ready to do that.
I love that. Is there anything else about breath work, life, otherwise, that's just on your heart today to share with listeners or to chat about? I feel like you are just such a beautiful wealth of knowledge and such a channel if you don't already like feel that you are. As you're talking this whole time, I'm like, she's channeling. This is beautiful.
Yeah, thank you for reflecting that. It is fun. I think that's one of my favorite things about breath work is I go into like a completely different place. I've had so many people come up to me. I teach classes in my community here, and so many times people come up to me afterwards. They're like, "Oh my gosh, that one line that you said, like, could you repeat that for me? Because that really landed." And I'm like, "Nope."
So
I'm
I
like,
don't even know what I
"Sorry."
said.
Yeah, literally. I'm like in the most, I don't know how to phrase this, but like, yeah, that wasn't really coming from me. So I'm really glad that it landed and you took whatever you needed to take from it. But no, I can't verbatim that back to you. Sorry. But it's such an amazing place to be at, right? To be able to hold that space and just be that channel for the wisdom and guidance that needs to come through for whoever's present there. That's always my prayer before I go into a breathwork session, is that, let me be able to be a pure and clear channel for whoever is there and whatever they need to receive. And that truly for me is that makes everything worth it. That is the power of this practice, is that it's you doing it. It's your breath, but having that guide and facilitator there to support you and help to facilitate that experience allows you to just go that much deeper.
Mhm. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Kat. I just love chatting all things breathwork and just getting to reconnect with you and share your story. And where can folks connect? Where can they schedule time with you? What is the best way to get in touch?
Yeah, thank you for having me. First of all, this was such a like serendipitous reconnection too. It's been so fun
I
to
know.
to touch base. So yes, you can find me on Instagram. That's where I'm the most active. My handle is at Nourished Roots Health, all one word. And you can find lots of information about how to work with me on my website, nourishedrootshealth.com. I am opening up spaces for my new Somatic membership, called the Expansion Portal. So that is going to be live. We were going to start in winter, and then I realized like that is not in alignment. We're starting spring. So, in real time readjustment there happening. But yeah, so spaces for that are open right now. We're going to be launching in spring, and come join us there. We're going to be moving through breath work, really working with the seasonal energies, doing energetic forecasts and updates, lots of space to check in, build an aligned community inside of that space as well. So I would love to support you and welcome you in there too.
Yay. And everything will be in the show notes, guys. Thank you so much for listening. If this conversation resonated, please like, share, subscribe, rate, review. Give this a listen again and again and again, or share it with other women so that they too can receive this medicine, receive the perspective of breath work. And if you are looking to expand your intuition and connect even deeper with yourself, my group program, Akashic Awakening, that was supposed to start this week is now moved to February because kind of same energy, but also I was stuck in New York yesterday. So we pivoted. So doors are open for that. There's still time to join. You'll learn to access the Akashic records, and we'll move through your chakras. We'll do breath work every single week, and connect in aligned community, as Kat said. So thank you guys for being here. Thanks so much, Kat. Be good to one another. I'll see you next week.